And of course, a lot of people have prepaid us. We have a $1 sale, which is where if you go to the website, they give you the option free or $1. If you pay $1, then when we start charging, you'll get an extra 2 months in your first year and guaranteed no increased pricing for the first 2 years after that. So enough of the advertisement. If you're new to EstateView and you haven't seen EstateView, probably our most popular feature is the married couples feature. And I'll just show you that we've changed a couple things on the married couple feature, but here's a married couple, $29 million net worth. Let me go ahead and get my cursor working so that you can see my cursor. Where is that silly lion? Okay, silly lion, where are you? Well, silly lion is missing. So can't share my cursor. Oh, there it is. Got it. Sorry about that. All right. So you see the bouncing pink ball? Maybe that's the best part of the presentation. Anyway, I can do my inputs on the left-hand side, and I can see my result in the middle, and I can pick different planning strategies and combinations of planning strategies on the right. So, and by the way, the inputs, when I click the arrows opposing each other, just like a family, I can click on that, and then it's nice and big for my old nearsighted eyes, and I can put in the client's name, their date of birth, maybe 1957, and then it tells me male, and then it tells me the life expectancy. So the actuarial year of death for somebody born in 1957 who is age 67 is 2038, and which is one of my favorite code sections. But our clients usually live a couple years older than that because our clients are not average, they're not smokers, they're usually healthier and get better medical attention and follow through better than the mainstream of the population. And then I can provide how much do you spend a year or how much do you earn a year up until a certain year. And then after age 76, perhaps you'll stop working and then you'll start spending more than you make, for example. So there's lots of information that I can enter, and I can click on the red cross there. If I need attention fast, that's the red cross on the far right, and it goes back. So to summarize some of the information, they're worth $29 million now, this beautiful married couple, $3 million residence, saving $250,000 a year, et cetera, et cetera. And when they do no planning, I click on the right-hand side, no planning, and they have a nice little estate tax of $19 million. But then if they fund a credit shelter trust in year 16, I can pick the year of death of the first dying spouse. Don't you wish you could do that for your clients and say, Harry, you're going to die in 2027 for sure. So we need to do this planning. So then I've got a credit shelter trust, estate taxes lower, qualified personal residence trust. We show the cash from the rent as part of the qualified personal residence trust, which the other software programs I don't think do. And then we have annual gifting to a gifting trust, discounted gifting of LLC interests, life insurance and life insurance trusts, making a large gift and an installment sale, which usually zeroes out the estate tax for people up to about 45 million, and then testamentary charity. So that's just a brief introduction. If you've not used EstateView, all you do is you go to the home page. And by the way, you can go to our detailed instruction manual, and that detailed instruction manual is going to have all the information as to how to use each of these calculators for those of you, us old people who like to read instructions. Otherwise, I'm working on instructional videos for each calculator. So that's that. Now, what you may want to do before a client walks in the door is look up some information so you can explain this to the client when they come in. For example, I can go to the life expectancy calculator, and I can choose one client or two clients. I'll say it's a couple, so I'll choose two clients. And let's just say that they are, one of them is 73 and the other is 67. Well, I put in my inputs, that's what those are, and I'm going to use the latest Treasury Department mortality table, which is called Table 2010. So it's based on the 2010 census data. And what this tells me when I click to see results is that a 73-year-old has a life expectancy of 13.3 years, which means that using 2000, according to 2010 data, 50% of the 73-year-olds will be deceased in 13.3 years, and the other 50% will still be living. Now, because our clients are healthier on average, assuming a non-smoker, not obese, this might really be 16 or 17 years. Now, the 67-year-old we have here has a 17.6 year life expectancy. So now I could go back to married couple and I could put 13.3 years and 17.6 years, but there's something very important I want to point out that this tells you. If you take a 73-year-old and a 67-year-old, there's a 50% chance that one of them will still be living in 20 years. So maybe it would be better for me to say the first death would happen in 15 years and the second death would happen in 22 or 23 years. So, and then I can see cool lines about the life expectancy of each of them. The life expectancy of person one is blue, life expectancy of person two is orange, and the life expectancy of at least one of them is green. So isn't that neat? They can hang that on their wall. So that's the life expectancy calculator, but it's a nice thing to let them know you have a lot of years to live. And if the assets double in value every 10 years, which a reasonable portfolio typically will, then in 20 years, you may be looking at 20 million today. But if that doubles to 40 million and it doubles again to 80 million, then you may have more of an estate tax than you thought you were going to have. So that's one thing we like to show a client when they come in. A second thing we like to have available readily is what life insurance may cost. Because no matter what the client's age is, if there is the possibility of the need for money when one spouse dies, it's a good idea in the conversation to say what it might cost. So I can go to life insurance estimator, and then I can put in their age and how many millions of coverage I want, and then it will tell me what's available. Let me go back to life insurance estimator. So for a 65-year-old, 1 million of 10-year term. If they're standard risk, 7,700 a year. If they're preferred risk, 5,000 a year per million. And if we decide in the conversation that they really should have 5 million, because when they die, we'd like to have 5 million investable at a 4% rate of return, which would give them $200,000 a year, then we can just click up to 5 million there. And then that tells me that a 10-year term policy may cost 25,000 a year. That's a lot. And a 20-year term policy might cost 35 a year. Now with a younger person, it's going to be, the numbers are going to be, of course, a lot less expensive. And with a female, it shows you that the numbers are a lot less expensive than a male. Look at that. Male age 57, 20-year term policy, 6,200 a year for standard, and 4,225 a year for female. So a sex change might be a good planning strategy to get less expensive life insurance. Now, we don't sell life insurance and we're not qualified to make recommendations on life insurance, but I do anyway because I want the clients to walk out the door with some degree of momentum. they need to call a qualified life insurance advisor, get an exam, get quotes. This is just based on some industry information that we derived by taking a survey with a good insurance agency of what different insurances cost for different ages. But that is the life insurance calculator. Now I accidentally clicked off EstateView, so I'll click it back on. And one nice thing about this is EstateView is web-based, but the information is all run on my computer. The web, the cloud, which is on an Amazon cloud, simply gives my computer the engine to run the software. The cloud does not have the information. And we use Microsoft C#, which that's the programming language and it enables it. And as you can see, Microsoft C# is pretty darn neat. Now, a new feature that's not completely working yet, it's under construction, is our Monte Carlo simulator. So what I'd like to explain to a client is, you know, we've been showing you 6% rate of return, 7% rate of return. What is a realistic rate of return? Well, there's a lot of factors on what a realistic rate of return may be. And for example, if you have a portfolio that is 35% bonds and 65% equities, and you invest that for a certain number of years, and let's see how many number of years we have here, 30 years, you may have a good experience in those 30 years or a not as good experience based upon what happens. And probably the most important thing is what happens in the first 2 or 3 years after you invest it. If I invested $10 million in 2006, I probably would have been pretty upset if it was all equities and it went down to $6 million in 2007 and didn't recover till 2011. But if I had invested the money in 2008, then it would have had a much better run. So when we click for results, what we see here is that based upon history since the mid 1930s, based upon a typical 35% bond portfolio, 60% equity portfolio invested for 30 years, the average rate of return, 9.11%. Going to the lowest 10 percentile, not the lowest, but the lowest 10 percentile, rate of return 6.62%, and going to the 90th percentile, close to the best return, 11.54%. And then we have a spreadsheet that actually shows you what those values would be through the 10th year, and you'll see the variances can be pretty significant. In year 10, the lowest 10 percentile is 1.6 million, and the highest 10 percentile is 3.4 million. And you only have an 80% chance of being between these two, because there's a 10% chance you'll be higher or lower than these numbers. So you see a big variance here between at year 10. At year 20, also a big variance. At year 30, it's a smaller variance. Now we're proofreading this and cleaning it up, but it's important, I think, that clients know that the longer they go, the more stable it will be. And of course, the more in equities, the higher the chance that the rate of return will be higher. Now, what Kevin has done is he's having the random years from the 1930s to present selected, and he runs it 10,000 times. So of the 10,000 times that he ran it, 1,000 times or more, 1,000 times it came out at 6.74% or less, and 1,000 times it came out at 12.02% or less. So that's how the Monte Carlo analysis works. Now, what I like about our Monte Carlo analysis is that you can go ahead and export this to a spreadsheet if you like. That's nice. And I can also run comparisons. So now this is 30/70 portfolio. I can click duplicate, and then I can make this 20% bonds and 80% equities. And then you can see that your rate of return would be expected to be higher. And over 30 years, it wouldn't make as big of a difference. So I can compare 20 years, 30 years, and then I could change the number of years invested. So I can click duplicate there and put the number of years invested to a different number. And there you see that, wow, if I have this for 1 year, I could be down by 7.22% or up by 30%. 80% of the, 20% of the time, I'm going to be outside the boundaries of losing 7.22% or gaining 49.48%. And if I click that up to, let's say, 16 years, now I'm better off. So if you're doing this for 16 years before the kids need to go to college, that's a better portfolio. But if you can't afford to lose a lot of money and you only have 6 years before they go to college, then it's a different ball game. So that's the Monte Carlo calculator. Now, I'm not purporting to be able to provide financial advice. So you say, but you are. And I say, well, I can tell clients generally that these principles should be involved in their planning, and that I have a software program that shows me what different stock bond combinations may result in. But I need to send my client to a properly trained and licensed financial advisor. But still, I do like to share the information, and I find it to be educational when I run through this. So let me see. Questions here? No questions yet. The other thing about the Monte Carlo analysis that I like is that it shows you not only what what an investment for 20 years or 30 years may be, but also it allows you to put your annual savings in. So for example, this person may save $1 million a year for 10 years. And then in 10 years, they may semi-retire and work part-time and make $500,000 a year. That's tier 2. And then after that, they may retire and spend $1 million a year. So I can now easily spreadsheet that. And not only am I spreadsheeting that, to show them what that looks like, but I'm also telling them what they may have at the end of that period of time. So enough of the Monte Carlo calculator. You want to know about our valuation discount calculators. Now, the last thing we're trying to do is to be valuation experts, but I can still show a client some of the things that a valuation expert needs to take into account when they do a valuation report, why it's important that they do a valuation report, and what the basic components are, because they're not just, saying, oh, the value is $6 million. I know that. They have to look at a lot of things, and there's a mathematical formula that they follow. So I open up my valuation discount calculator, and here you see I put I put $1.3 million worth of stocks, bonds, cash, and real estate into a limited liability company. It's leveraged by 300,000. Maybe there's a 300,000 mortgage on the real estate, or maybe there's a margin account. And I'm going to give away a non-voting member interest in this entity for 40%. and let's say 25% of the value, 25% of the 1.3 million is in cash. And so I'm going to take only a 5% discount for what's in cash. The courts don't like high discounts on cash. And then I have, let's say, 60% in stocks. And the courts may allow a 10% discount on average for stocks. And then I have bonds, 8% in bonds, which would entitle me maybe to a 6% discount, and 2% in real estate, which would entitle me to a 13% discount. So I'm going to have a blended discount based on these things, based upon the Parashio case. Now it's going to be an a valuation expert who's going to tell me what these discounts should be based upon the circumstances of the LLC and evaluating other factors. And then I'm going to assume a marketability discount, which is separate. The discount up top here is called the lack of control discount. Then I've got a lack of marketability discount. And then there may be what's called a tax affecting discount, which is that somebody who buys this is going to have to pay income tax as things are sold. So I'll take a 3% discount for tax affecting. I click to see the results. And then across the top, I have a very nice educational array. And what I find out is my total discount is 33%. So 33% of 1 million comes out to 1 million net value times 40% gets you to 400,000, and that divides out to a discount of 132,000, and my value transferred is 267,000. So it's basically a 33% discount. So that is the valuation calculator. The active business valuation calculator is different. I have my income. Now, different valuation experts will tell you it's based upon revenue, it's based upon net income, it's based on assets, but most often it's based upon a multiple of income primarily. So we have earnings before income tax, depreciation, and amortization of, say, 1 million, and maybe the multiple for this particular industry based on these circumstances the valuation expert comes up with is 6.7 times. Now, does it have enough assets to operate, or does it have more than it needs? Well, it's got a lot more than it needs to operate. That's called overcapitalized by 500,000. It owes 300,000 in debt. I'm going to transfer 49%, which is a minority interest, and I'm going to ask for a lack of control discount, maybe 20%, lack of marketability discount, maybe 20%, tax affecting discount. By the way, it used to be that for S corporations and partnerships, you didn't take a tax affecting discount because the shareholders pay the tax, not the company. But the recent case law has granted S corporations, and now we'll get them in partnerships, a tax affecting discount. So maybe we'll take a 5% tax affecting discount, click on see results, and now you see that the value of 40% of this company is 1.9 million. Well, I may go to 2 valuation experts, and one valuation expert told me these multiples. Another valuation expert told me that I could go with a 7.3% multiple, and that my lack of control discount can be 28%, even though that's on the high side. That's why the red mark is. So if I hire the first expert, I've got 1,952,000. If I hire the second expert, I've got 2 million. I hire both experts under attorney-client privilege, and I'm careful as to what I exchange with them in emails and everything like that. The one expert who came in at 1,952,000, I do not hire. The expert who came out higher, I may not hire. HIRE versus HIGHER. And I can keep the fact that I consulted with that other expert under the attorney-client privilege. Now, we did 2 valuations for a client about 2.5 years ago. One came in at around 250 million and the other came in at around 450 million. And guess which one we used? So it's definitely worth the cost, and you can pay the valuation experts in 2 tiers. Tier 1 is give me schedules of numbers and come up with an approximate number. And then part 2 is write up the report. Now, when they write up the report, they may discover other issues that may change their numbers, but that way it's less expensive to hire 2 valuation experts, get 2 opinions, interview both of them, and then choose one or the other to get the final report. Or if they're very close in proximity, go ahead and buy both reports. So that is the valuation calculator. Now, I'm going to go now to the large gift calculator, because that is the hottest thing going on, I think. 2026 is approaching, and what I know as to 2026 is that I'm going to be really busy the last 3 months of 2025, and I'm going to be begging clients to think about this before the last 3 months of 2025. Will they or won't they? The other thing that's complicating the lives of a lot of us in the tax law area is the Corporate Transparency Act, where 37 million US companies, most US companies, the ones with less than 30 employees, basically, for the most part, have to register with the Treasury Department. And that registration includes a driver's license for each person with more than 25% or more ownership, or control. So a trust that controls an LLC may have to have its trustees, its trust protectors, and its grantor, who has certain powers, register. So that's a lot of work. But nevertheless, let's say, and I'll go to Pro Plus here, which is our everything product. Let's say that you have a client, and this client is 70 years old and expects to live to age 90. I'll put 90 there. And they're saving $400,000 a year, still working for the next 5 years. And then after the 5th year, they expect to slow down to make $100,000 a year for 5 years. And then after that, they expect to spend $450,000 a year. So this is their net savings, separate and apart from their investment portfolio and reinvestments, net savings and spending. You really need 3 tiers for a lot of clients, because clients are in their prime earning, then the slow down, and then a retirement. And really, typically there's a 4th tier, which is when you get into the early 80s, you stop spending as much unless your children are helping you spend it, which happens quite a bit. So then let's say this client has used a little bit of his exemption, maybe. Let's say that he's already made $1 million gift before. Let's say he's inherited a $2 million portability allowance from a prior spouse who died and didn't use the entire allowance. I'm generous. I think I'll buy this client a $1.5 million home that'll grow at 3.75% per year. 25 million of investments growing at 7.5% a year, but paying tax on 1.5% of the value of the 25 million per year. And I want to show a $1 million gift this year and the impact of that gift. Now, I'll mention that the client has a couple of children, so the gift of $1 million only uses $966,000 of the client's estate tax exemption. So those are my inputs. And then I'm going to click here on click to see results. And here are my results. I have across the top, a $1 million portability allowance, a year one gift of $1 million, a no discount rate. I'm just going to gift $1 million flat. On death at age 90, a $73 million estate because of the time value of money. At age 100, a $109 million estate. He'll have a $15 million exemption and estate tax liability of $23 million. Would that bother you? Estate tax savings from the $1 million gift, $1.3 million, and the savings per million gifted, $1.3 million. Estate tax, $23 million. So you save $1.3 million by giving the trust for your children $1 million. Now, the client says, do I need to do that before 2026? And the answer is it's okay to, but it doesn't use any of your temporary exemption. Your temporary exemption, which today for all of us is $6,805,000 unless you've done a ton of gifting. So you've got a $6,805,000 temporary exemption. You've got a $6,805,000 core exemption. That's the one you're going to lose. I'm sorry, the temporary exemption is the one you're going to lose in 2026, as you see there. The core exemption is going to continue. And then you've got your portability allowance. So that $1 million gift I did only used $1 million of the portability allowance. It didn't use any of the core exemption or the temporary exemption. But that's gift number one. So now I'm going to go to duplicate and show gift number two. Now, gift number two is exactly like gift number one, but I'm going to do an $8 million gift. So I'm going to change the million to 8 million. So now I'm at an $8 million gift. And where I'm going to go straight to is how much more did I save per million in the last million? I've only saved a tiny bit more than initial. And the reason is, when I look at the spreadsheet for gift number two, I've used up the portability allowance, I used up the core exemption, and I only used up $1 million. I only used up, it looks like about 140,000 of my temporary exemption. So it really didn't do that much good. I mean, it did some good, but it didn't do nearly as much good as the next million. So I'm going to go show my client the next million, which is gift number three. And gift number three, I'm going to change the gift to 9 million. Well, now I'm using up a full million of my total exemption, and my incremental savings from that last million is $1.7 million, not $1.3 million. And my total estate tax savings is now 12 million. So on a 9 million gift, that's not bad at all. Now, and I can also show the client, that assumes you're going to live 20 years and that your assets are only going to grow by that amount. If your assets grow at a higher amount, then you'll have more savings. So let's go ahead and crank this thing up to gift number four. And gift number four, I'm going to crank this up to the whole enchilada, which is about 13 million. Now my estate tax savings is 18 million. He's still got a big estate tax of 6.4 million, but at least we've used up the full exemption. So maybe he feels better. Now, what if this client is married or decides to marry and is able to find somebody to split the gift with? In other words, this probably wouldn't be the first spouse. It wouldn't be the mother. You typically would not be the parent of the common children. This would be the next spouse, the trophy spouse, as they sometimes call that next spouse. Or now, probably the spouse called the trophy spouse is the one that won the trophy. But in any event, or is it atrophy? I'm not sure which. But we could split the gift. So I can go to gift number 5 here, and we could split the gift. So by splitting the gift, we use the spouse's exemption. And when we split the gift, it's not a whole lot different in the estate tax savings, but we used a little bit less of our exemption. But the key is now we could gift twice as much. So I could crank this baby up to 24 million. And it's worth getting married just for that, I think. And you've heard the joke of the guy, the tax lawyer goes to a bar. Actually, he goes to a social event. And he meets a client who is in his late 70s. And he meets the client, and the client has just a beautiful wife with him, younger, you might guess. So when the client goes up to the bar, the tax lawyer goes up to the bar and says, "You have such a beautiful young wife. How did you do that?" And the client says, "Well, I lied about my age." And the lawyer says, "Well, you're 78. You told her you were 68?" "No, I told her I was 88 and in terrible health." So then there's a laugh track that I forgot where my laugh track is. But anyway, what happened here? Now, he didn't die because he married somebody younger. But what is the red? What is the red that happened? The red that happened here when I cranked up that gift is he did something that he didn't want to do. He ran out of money. So the spreadsheet for gift 5 rings a large bell. If you give that much and you're going to pay the tax on the income from the gift, then you are going to run out of money. So I wanted to, and I'll go ahead and just crank this back down to where I don't run out of money. So at 17 million, I don't run out of money, but I'm still watching age 100. And I can go, where do I run out at age 100? I run out at age 100 just at 15 million. Now, why does that happen? I'm going to show you in a minute. But I'm also going to mention Homer Wiedemeyer. Now, who was Homer Wiedemeyer? Homer Wiedemeyer was one of my favorite clients. I went to his 100th birthday party. He picked up his daughter who had dementia before the party at her nursing home and took her to the party. He drove them. When he got to the party, he introduced everybody to everybody else. He knew all 45 of us very well. Then he gave a 50-minute speech, which was a beautiful speech. Then he personally said goodbye to everybody. And then he drove his daughter home and wrote us all thank you cards for the gifts we gave him. That was his 100th birthday party. I don't think Homer would have wanted to be $18 million in the hole for his 100th birthday party. So what we did was to try to better navigate these waters and show you how this might work. We invented a timeline view. Now, the timeline view, and this is for gift number 1. So you give $1 million, and here's that little gift across the bottom. You got your house, you got that little gift across the bottom. The gift is growing a little bit, and then you have all this net worth and a lot of estate tax for gift number 1. So I go to gift number 2. Gift number 2, as you recall, let's see how much we gave for gift number 2. We gave 8 million. Now you got a nice big gift trust running across the bottom here, a smaller net worth, and still a lot of estate tax. So not such a great story. So we'll go to gift number 3 here, click on number 3. We gave more. We gave as much as we could. Was it gift number 3 as much as we could? No. Gift number 4, we gave as much as we could without remarrying. That's gift number 4. You know, as you notice, we're still not there, but at least that gets us part of the ways. With other techniques, we could get to a 0 estate tax for this client. And then we went to gift number 5. Maybe the prior spouse up in heaven was looking down and saying, if you do this, if you remarry, then here is what's going to happen to you. Gift number 5, lightning will strike and you will run out of assets. Oops, $20 million gift. You like that new spouse? Well, your life expectancy is here, age 86, but you run out of assets here. And the reason for that is that you gave away a heck of a lot of your 25 million. But the sad part is even if you give away 19 million, you have a little bit of estate tax and you run out of assets. And of course, that assumes the spending that we have. If you do less spending, you'll have the assets last. But if you have to do more spending, then the assets will go away. So there's 2 things you can do when this happens. Number 1 is you can toggle off grantor trust status. So let's go back to the spreadsheet here, and let me show you all of the income tax on trust income is what I want to show you. I just checked the box for income tax on trust income. So income tax on trust income is going to be considerable if you have the client not toggle off grantor trust status. But if the client toggles off grantor trust status, they'll have a lot more. So I'll go back to here. I will go back to timelines, number 5. And because I stopped the phenomenon of the client having to pay the income tax on the trust assets, see, if he has to pay the income tax on the trust assets, he's going to run out. If he never pays the income tax, if he never pays the income tax on the trust assets, he never runs out. And I can see if he waits and he only starts paying the income tax on the trust assets until year 16, and then he stops, then he lasts longer. 17, 18, 19. The longer he waits to toggle off having to pay the tax on behalf of the trust, the higher the risk, or the sooner that he's going to have this issue. And I'm going to show you, that's gift number 5. Let's go to gift number 6, because the other thing we have to show him, and here we go to gift number 6, it's the same, but here I want to change the rate of return. So we've been telling him he's going to get this particular rate of return, 7.5%. Well, maybe he won't. Maybe he'll only get a 3.5% rate of return. Whoops, that is a bigger problem. So then he may toggle off grantor trust status immediately, or if he just does it in year 7 when things aren't going as well, he'll make it until that long. If I want to show more years, I think age 90 is good, but if I want to show to age 100, I can, and then it sure looks scarier, doesn't it? There's age 89. So the other thing we built into this, wait, there's more? Yes, there's more. What if he enters into a self-canceling installment note? So based upon his age, at the time that we enter into this arrangement, if he sets up a 12-year note, the trust would have to pay him $85,000 a year in interest for a $1 million note. And then when he dies, the note cancels. It's called a self-canceling installment note. And Kevin simplified our self-canceling installment note calculator and put it here. So if he starts running out of money, let's say in year 10, he says, oops, I'm running out of money. Well, in year 10, for every million he gives to the trust, he gets back 135,000 a year. So let's see what happens. I click $1 million. So we know that if the trust gets down, he could take some of his assets and give them to the trust and get back 135,000 a year. And if he does that, that's going, as you can see, that if he does $1 million, that'll safeguard him a little bit, but not really a whole lot. So what year should he start? And then we can say, if he were to do it in year 6, it will elongate a little bit. But what if he did that and he also toggled off the grantor trust status? So I'll go back up to the grantor trust status. And if he toggles off the grantor trust status in year 2 because the investments aren't going well, then he'll make it to year 91. Now, if he just does a smaller gift so he feels more comfortable, it looks like to get him to age 95, he makes an $11 million gift. So maybe this is what I think he should do. Gets gift number 6, or he should consider number 5. He should understand how 5 works, and he should understand that if he does number 4, there's more estate tax, but still issues. So I click on generate explanation letter, and I want to show him gifts number 1, 4, 5, and 6. And I click on PowerPoint presentation, and I put his name down here, well-paying client. His wife is Mrs. Client. Click on submit. And where is my PowerPoint? Let me try that again. There should be the PowerPoint. There it is. You silly PowerPoint. When I click on that arrow, 2 PowerPoints came up. I asked for 3. There's 3. So 1, 2, 3. And I'll go ahead and open one for you. Where did it go? It's got to be here somewhere. And I have 5 screens, by the way. So open. There it is. Oh, there's the other one too. All right, so I've made a large gift. We can circulate this PowerPoint, but I made a large gift. It was a $17,640,000 gift. I give you the assumptions here that we used, the primary assumptions. If he didn't make this gift, he'd have a $22 million estate plan. If he does make this gift and he lives to year 20, he'll have no estate tax, so that's a happy thought. But an unhappy thought, he will run out of assets in year 18. Maybe that's not such a happy thought. Now, this brings to mind that if he's married, maybe his wife has assets to support him, or maybe this is a spousal limited access trust that will support his wife, and then he won't have to spend so much every year. And by the way, here's all the income taxes he's having to pay until you toggle off grantor trust status. So if he toggles off grantor trust status, he certainly wouldn't run out of money so quickly. There's the timeline, and there's the conclusion. So I really do like the timelines. I don't know that any other software has these timelines, and they help us immensely. The other thing I like about what we've done here is I will go back to summaries and details. Now, just so you know, I can click File, Save As, and then I can enter the file name, John Doe, change his name, click Save, and now it's on my computer. The next time I come up, I can just open that. I can go to File, Open, and it'll come up, and then I can put it right back into the program. The data is saved on my computer. It's not saved on the cloud. And then I can share this whole thing with the client. I can shoot a videotape on Zoom explaining it, and then I can click Share with Client. It gives me a number. I can change the number, and then I click URL. I click Copy to Clipboard. Now all I have to do is do an email to the client, and when I paste this HTTPS address into the email, and I say, Dear client, open this up, click on this thing, and then put in 073640, and you'll be able to use this software for 2 weeks and do this yourself and see what numbers you like. The other thing I want to mention, just to give you kind of a full view of this as a typical calculator, is that I can screenshot the top. I can save the spreadsheet to Excel by clicking Export to Excel. I can screenshot the inputs, and of course, when I do the PowerPoint, it's going to also summarize the inputs. But wait, there's more. What more is there? Well, this could be, I'll take out the, I could run it, of course, without the exemption going down by half. So I could duplicate gift number 1, and he could say, well, what if the exemption doesn't go down by half? Have I done anything good? So I can go to gift number 2. Let me see, duplicate gift number 1. So now number 7 is equal to number 1. And then for number 1, let me see, split the gift. Are the numbers the same? The numbers are the same. But then if the exemption does not drop down to half, the number, the difference between 1 and 7 is significant on the estate tax side, but the estate tax savings are still the same amount from the gift. So it's still $13,312,000. He still has the estate tax issue if the exemption doesn't go down, in other words. So I can show him that as well, but I can also get him married to a spouse that he leaves assets to. So if I click on checkbox to show surviving spouse, now it's a different ball game. Now on the far right, I'm showing that anything above, anything down to his exemption amount remaining is going to go to a credit shelter trust when he dies in year 20. And then that's going to grow by $1.8 million the first year. So the credit shelter trust is going to pass estate tax free. Oops, let me get that to fit with. And then the excess amount, instead of being subject to estate tax, will go to the spouse or go to a Q-tip trust that'll be subject to estate tax on the second death. The spouse's exemption is shown there. And when that spouse dies 10 years later, the estate tax is 22 million. So what did we save for that married couple? Now the estate tax savings is different. The estate tax savings now for a married couple, for a married couple with 10 years more of life, 2.3 million estate tax savings versus 1.3 million if there was no surviving spouse. So now I can run a whole new ball game for each gift here just by clicking on. Wouldn't it be so easy to get married? But you just go to a bar, you meet someone attractive, and then you click here, and then you're married, and you have a whole new exemption amount. So that makes it worth getting married right there, especially if your spouse is going to die first and not have much exemption. Then your kids will be all for it. You just need to marry someone who doesn't have children. So anyway, as I've said 9 times already, that's the large gift calculator. I think it's going to be the most widely used calculator. My hour is just about up. I know it seemed longer than an hour, but it was just an hour. And now I'd like to answer questions. And based on the questions, I may show you a couple more calculators. But if you're here for the credit or you have somewhere to go, then obviously we appreciate that you've been here. I really appreciate that I think everyone we started with is still here. So maybe a lot of you fell asleep or things like that. Hi, Sam. Sam and I had a really nice conversation. Stuart, thank you very much for the $1. We spent it immediately, but I appreciate all your attendance and everybody's input on the software. It's been, as you can imagine, quite a time-consuming but enjoyable most of the time process. Okay, Herbert, thank you. Can you direct the early sign up option is when you go to EstateView.link, if you're not already on EstateView.link, it will give you a free sign up. You do the free sign up, and then it will ask you, do you want it absolutely free or do you want to spend $1? On the left-hand side is absolutely free. On the right-hand side is $1. If you're not able to find it, just send me an email, agassman@gassmanpa.com, and I'll take that for you. Okay, sample plans to show the power of the program and the output. Will there be some of these, or will we make our own, or have the program open? Well, when you open first thing I'll say is when you open anything, like I'll open a qualified personal residence trust, it's going to show you the last one you worked on. So this would be the last one I worked on. But then if you want a new one, you click File New, and it's already preloaded with information. So I'm already showing you a typical qualified personal residence trust here. And the reason is because it's easier to start with age 70 and just toggle up and down to 65 as opposed to starting to 0. And it's easier to start with a 10-year term and just toggle it to a 13-year term. So it's already preset with a sample. And by the way, there's 3 different modes. There's standard, which will be $199 a year. There's pro, which will be $399 a year. And then there's Pro Plus, which I think most people will get, which will be $499 a year, which has all the features. So you'll click on one of these 3. Otherwise, it starts in standard. And then you'll click to see results. And then you've already got one here. And you've got your inputs on the left. They moved to the left. You can either look at your inputs the way they are there, or you can make them a little bit bigger by clicking there. So the left one is a little more compact. The right one, they're bigger, but they're the same inputs. So then you see what the program shows you as a sample. So you've already got one. And then you can go to General Explanation, click Planner's Checklist, General Explanation, Short Explanation, PowerPoint Presentation, click Submit. There's your short explanation with the numbers that I'm showing. And then in your cachet or whatever you call it will be a general explanation, a checklist, and a PowerPoint. You can look at that and then you can adapt it to your client situation. We are going to be adding videos this week that will be instructional videos. So I hope that answers the question there. Thank you for that question. It was a very good one. Okay, Mike, is there any expectation that EstateView will soon use life expectancy data updated from 2010? Well, the IRS, for purposes of our actuarial calculations, Mike, requires us to use the 2010 tables. We don't have a choice. But you're right, as far as telling you how long your client is likely to live, I think sometime in the next few months we'll update that so that we have both 2010 table and a typical actuarial table. But that's a good question. Okay, is it possible to duplicate the question today so we can easily play with it? And the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, why don't I do this just for fun? Well, right after this, I'm gonna save. Well, I'll just do it now before I forget. I'm gonna go to Share with Client, generate URL, copy to clipboard. Then I'm gonna open an email, and I'm going to, where is the email I just opened? Open email. All right, you can't see it, but I just opened an email, and then I just copied and clicked. Oh, there it is. You see it. Click there, click there. I'm going to send that to Joseph. So now if Joseph can send that to everybody, Joseph, Joe, there he is. So I just sent that to Joe. And now I know that the, let me see here. Back to EstateView. Back to EstateView. Joe, the code is 871063. We'll be sending that out to anyone who wants it, and then you can play with that particular thing with the settings all set up for you. All right, let me see what I did with the questions when I was jostling around there. By the way, I'm not very good with computers, so maybe that shows you that you can learn EstateView better than I can. Okay, then can we toggle off grantor trust status to reduce the chance of running out? Yes, absolutely. When you're doing the large gift and with any of our calculators, we're going to show you grantor trust status, and then you're going to be able to toggle off grantor trust status. It's, where is that? Years to toggle off grantor trust status, either never or from inception or whichever year you decide. And while you're watching the results on the timeline, you'll be able to see the result of, well, let me go to, which gift is this? This is gift number 2. So I go here to gift number 2 and then the toggle off, and that's the way it works. By the way, the one thing I didn't show you, which to get this more real, is typically if you make this type of gift, you're going to use a discount. So I'll go back to one of the bigger ones. And the 12 million gift, what we really would have done with the 12 million gift, and we'll do that, we'll show this as gift number 4, is go back to the 12 million. We will take a valuation discount. So we'll take a 25 or a 30% discount. So then we'll move this number up, and you see that for the same 12 million gift with the 30% discount, we've actually made a $17 million gift. We've used less of the client's exemption, but we're also asking for an audit. So maybe it's best just to do the 12 million gift and show it as an $8 million gift on the gift tax return. Then if they audit it, the worst case scenario is no gift tax payable, because clients typically don't like to pay a gift tax. All right, there is a sample plan here. If you want to read what a typical married couples plan looks like when we do one and then the computer writes it up, it is right there. And then the final thing I want to show you is the RMD calculator. So here I have a 65-year-old and life expectancy is about 20 years. I'll show 25 years. Assets growing at 7.5%. Income tax rate 37%. And then $3 million IRA. Well, let's make it a $5 million IRA. And I'll click for results. And this is showing me that a 65-year-old today will have to take his first payment at age 73. By then, the IRA will be worth $8.9 million. And the first payment will be $336,000. Or if the law is the same as it is now, he will be able to elect to defer the first year payment. Click that. You see he defers the first year payment now. And then it shows me that after taxes, he'll have $464,000. Nothing goes to charity. And the cumulative payments are shown on the right. But he may want to go ahead and give to charity, beginning when his minimum distribution is, maybe $75,000 a year, now goes to charity. Now, adjusted for inflation, that's going to be $111,000 a year the first year, and that's going to give him a $111,000 charitable deduction and some nice income tax savings. And maybe he'll want to do the whole amount, which is now $105,000 a year, to have more savings. And maybe he'd even like to start giving to charity when he reaches 70 and a half, which is permissible. So we can show all of those as scenarios on the spreadsheet. And what it's not showing you, when I click fit with, is it's also showing you the income tax savings from the charitable deduction. So it's going to save him $57,000 in taxes to allow to allow the amount, $156,000 to go to charity. It's not going to save him anything in taxes the first 4 payments, but overall over time, there's going to be plenty in this plan. When he's 89 years old, the IRA after all the payments is going to be worth $11 million. So that's the RMD calculator. I like to show that to a client right when they get to the office. They feel like they got value. It takes me, 8 minutes to tell them life expectancy, life insurance, RMD, and what your estate tax is without planning and with the credit shelter trust and with annual gifting. They already got a big value from the meeting, and hopefully they do something about it. So we welcome your questions, comments, and suggestions. Appreciate everyone who's working so hard on EstateView. Kevin Gray, Joey Kleiner, Jason, Brittany Baker here at my office, Marcia for letting me work on Saturdays and do webinars like this, which are very, very helpful to find room for improvement and anything that may not be working right. So have a fantastic rest of your day. Those of us from the EstateView offices on the 107th floor of the Empire State Building in New York, New York, wish you a fantastic day and that we don't have to pay tax to the New York tax authorities. Thank you.